So a lot of times what I'll see is men who say, I've done everything for this person and I've gotten nothing in return. In fact, she hates me and she's disrespectful. And so they're very confused.
So, what's wrong with being a nice guy?
There's nothing wrong with nice guys if they're happy.
That's true. That's true.
There are a lot of nice guys that are very, very unhappy because they're being nice so as to get a different need met. Like they're being nice so that someone likes them, or they're being nice so they're validated or accepted or respected, or so they can get what they want. And they don't realize that they're inherently powerful and lovable just as they are without having to perform or provide value to be loved.
So, when someone enrolls in the nice guy reform school, what are you doing?
So I'm helping men who have essentially given their power away to their relationship, their partner. It could be a business partner, it could be an intimate partner, their wife, really anything outside of themselves. And they feel kind of drowned, like they feel like they're drowning in it, right? They're doing everything they can do. They're not taking any time for themselves, and they're not getting their needs met in return. They're not being appreciated. They're not being valued. In fact, they're usually getting disrespected, undervalued, underappreciated, taken advantage of. So I'm helping them understand the difference between being in their power and loving themselves and how to get their needs met that way versus getting their needs met by putting their power into something or in something and their energy into something outside of themselves so as to, hope they get a return back, and usually they don't.
Are you talking about people who are nice by their nature? Or are we talking about people who have become nice because they think that's what society wants and they think that's how they can get what they want?
When I say nice guy, it's in quotes because I'm talking about essentially a fawn trauma response. So there's 4 trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And the fawn trauma response is referring to a people-pleasing habit. So it's essentially a fawn trauma response. It's a form of codependency. And I think there's a difference between being kind and being nice. So sometimes the kindest thing I can do is be honest with you, right? Being nice is essentially being overly concerned with how you view me or how I'm impacting you to the point where I abandon myself if I'm doing it to receive validation, attention, love, approval, respect from you.
When you say that someone is being overly nice, what does that look like in their lives?
So it looks like taking better care of other people than you do yourself, right? So it looks like maybe you're spending a bunch of money on your wife or your partner and almost no money on yourself. You could buy something nice for yourself. So a lot of times what I'll see is men who say, I've done everything for this person and I've gotten nothing in return. In fact, she hates me and she's disrespectful. And so they're very confused around and as to why they're doing all of these things for this person or this woman. And like I said, it could be a business partner too. It could be a company. And they are not seeing the ROI that they thought they were going to see. And also they're exhausted at the end of the day and they gain weight. They become depressed. They become bitter. It's deep. It's very, very deep in someone's system when they've been living like this for a long time.
Are you seeing more men like this?
I think it started with, this is just a theory. I don't have the research to back this up. I don't know if there is any, but I think it started really when the feminist movement started. There have been 3 waves of feminism. And I would say it probably started with the second wave. And it's just gotten worse with the third wave. I don't think there's anything wrong with the feminist movement. In fact, when I was a kid, I had like a Rosie the Riveter poster in my room. I was, very independent. I grew up in a household of all women. But I think what it's done is, one, the patriarchy kind of taught men that they had to protect, they had to provide, sometimes even give their life, and they weren't allowed to cry about it. They weren't allowed to have feelings about it. So we expected them to be robots. And I think that's where a lot of men got their definition of what it meant to be a man, is this societal programming of, if you protect, if you provide, if you give your life, if you sacrifice, if you're a martyr, then and you don't cry about it and you suck it up, then that means that's what makes you a man. But that's not really what women want or need. We want men to be in their power. We want men to be leaders. We want men to be decisive. We want men to show up for us. And it doesn't make masculinity, it doesn't mean that it's bad, right? What's bad is when a man is insecure, when he's reactive, when he's angry. To me, that's kind of a lack of masculinity. What women want is that we want the man there. We want him to show up. We want him to be in his power. We want him to feel good. We want him to be able to protect us. And it doesn't mean that it's bad.
I do think that there is some confusion amongst men about, well, what am I supposed to be now? Am I supposed to be this tough, take charge person? Or am I supposed to be sympathetic, empathetic, and in touch with my emotions?
100%. That's why I do what I do. I like to call it the third way, where you blend the two, right? Where you're not a pushover, you're in control, you're in charge of your life, and you have an open heart, you're emotionally healthy, you can process emotions in real time, you can hold space for her emotions. It doesn't mean you have to hook into them or emote with her, but when a man can't hold his own emotions, which we haven't really taught men or boys how to do. In fact, we've made it wrong for them to have emotions. And so when we increase a man's bandwidth to process and hold space for their own emotions, they can then be more present with a woman as she has her emotional experiences. They can be kind of like a tree, like rooted, grounded, present, but a man who can't hold the space for his own emotions will react poorly to a woman who's emoting. And he'll struggle to set boundaries with her. So it's one thing for her to have her emotional experience. It's another thing for her to have poor behavior. And so what we want, right, because she's angry or something, right? So what we want is a woman who feels safe enough with a present, powerful man to emote and tell him how she feels and what she wants without blaming him, shaming him, or abusing him. And so if the man can stay present and grounded, kind of that bad boy confident energy, right? If he can stay there and in it with her and present, but not hook in, not react, and set healthy boundaries around her behavior, right? Again, that's the bad boy energy, but caring, which is the nice guy energy, right? So I'm here, I'm present, I'm not afraid, I'm confident, and I care. But what you're not going to do is attack me, blame me, shame me, abuse me because you're hurting.
I can see this both ways. I can see people being right on. You're exactly right. And I can also see people saying, what are you talking about?
I get that a lot. And my own partner said the same thing. We had a little debate about it. There's nothing wrong with being nice. When I say quote unquote nice guy, I'm talking about, like, again, the fawn trauma response. I'm talking about codependency. I'm talking about taking better care of other people than you do yourself. And we've made that socially acceptable for men. And so it can be confusing because it's like, well, I've been told to be nice. I've been told not to be an asshole. I've been told to, open doors for women. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's about the intention. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because someone told you to do it and because you think it's going to make you a good guy and make people like you? Or are you doing it because you're already in your power, you can set boundaries if you want to, and you're actively choosing to show up and serve and protect and provide because that's who you want to be? And it doesn't matter to you whether or not someone validates you or approves you or even thanks you for doing what you're doing. This is just who you are as a person. And I think it's important to look at those intentions, right? Why do we do anything? Why do we do anything? And if the answer is external approval at all, then you get to shift that and essentially bring your power back inward and only do things and only do that which you absolutely want to do, not because it's going to gain you approval or acceptance from someone else. And you need that approval or acceptance because you're not even giving it to yourself. So you're outsourcing it essentially, which is not what we want to do.